4 roster bubble players the Browns should target. So these are roster bubble players on other teams that the Browns should be interested in. Ben Benigou from the Colts, defensive end, is number 1. Thoughts?
Yeah, so Ben Benigou, he's somebody who's interesting coming off the edge. He hasn't gotten a ton of playing time. Obviously, you have Justin Houston, who's played there the last couple of years. And then you add in, DeForest Buckner along that defensive line. And they have a ton of guys that are interesting. So Benigou, he fell down the pack a little bit. He was only a draft pick a couple years ago. I want to say he was a mid-round draft pick, if not the 3rd round. So, Benigou, he might be somebody who, adding on a little bit more depth along the edge could be interesting. But I'm not sure, given the fact that, you have Curtis Weaver coming off the edge, or coming off the IR, excuse me. You also have Porter Gustin, and you added in Takk McKinley as well. I'm not sure if there's necessarily a fit for him on this team, but he would be somebody I would take a shot on. I wouldn't mind it.
So the 3rd target, so we're going to count backwards. He was 4-3. Taven Bryan from the Jaguars, defensive tackle.
So Taven Bryan is an interesting case because, he was a 3 technique coming out of Florida. He ended up going, I want to say, 29th overall in the 2018 draft. And that was after, the big season that the Jaguars had with Blake Bortles leading the way, almost taking a win in New England. But Taven Bryan is somebody who hasn't necessarily performed up to that 1st-round billing. 3.5 sacks in his career. I think that he's somebody who, if you bring him in, all of a sudden, then he could be somebody who could be another reclamation project. Taven Bryan, along with, Takk McKinley, these former 1st-round picks, I wouldn't mind bringing him in at that point, throw him down there, see if he can develop. They already brought in Malik McDowell earlier this offseason. Do I think he'll make the roster? Probably not. But at the same time, it's just about getting some of these guys in. And it's a lottery ticket at this point with a lot of these guys. And, if you're able to hit, and especially if you're able to hit on a guy with 1st-round talent, then all of a sudden that's a coup for Andrew Berry and company.
All right, so 2 and 1 are Steven Sims, wide receiver from the Washington football team, and Jordan Hicks, linebacker from the Cardinals. Thoughts on those 2?
So Steven Sims is somebody who I'm a little bit less of a fan of with this roster, just because, obviously he's not taking Odell's spot. He's not taking Landry. I don't think he takes Higgins' spot. And then you look at the way that the team has invested in some of these other receivers. Darryl Hodge, he was somebody who was brought back. He was a great special teamer and beloved by Mike Prefer as well. But on top of that, you have Donovan Peoples-Jones. You just saw them take Anthony Schwartz in round 3 this year. And on top of that, there's other guys that were in the mix last year that, just got injured flat out. So, I look at the rest of this roster. I just don't think that Steven Sims is a solid choice at this point. And then Jordan Hicks, obviously everybody looks at linebacker and thinks that the Browns automatically need one. To be honest, I don't think that linebacker is as pressing of a need with all of the additions that they've made this offseason. Hicks is somebody who has that starting experience. And, if you want to go down that road, I almost look at him almost like a replacement for the Malcolm Smith role. And obviously Smith has been brought back this year. But, if Jordan Hicks is somebody who gets cut, and at that point, sure, I'd be fine with bringing him in and, rotating him into the lineup. He had over 100 tackles last year. He's somebody who was very productive in coverage with Philadelphia. Maybe dropped off a little bit in Arizona. But you bring him into Cleveland, all of a sudden he's just a rotational player for you at that point. I think he can do well in that type of role.